Hello, this is Giselle Gamby, business and life coach and proud host of the Intuitive Pool podcast. We're now pivoting to season 4 with an invitation to raise the stakes. I know I was made to remind people to raise the stakes, to seize, to claim and execute the vision that you've intuitively seen, and to never accept the crumbs. What would it mean if you raised the stakes in your own life? What would you say yes to? And what would you say an undeniable no to? Be inspired, be agitated, be activated, and most of all, hold this truth, that when you raise the stakes, the quantum field will show you dreams you didn't even know you had. So welcome, Intuitive Pool listeners. I have a guest who has just entered, or we've just entered each other's worlds actually, just recently. Her name is Donna Wallace, and I am really keen to have this conversation today. I want to give the listeners a little bit of behind the scenes into the podcast. I was telling Donna before we started recording the episode is I get probably every week, I get an email from, I think it must be an agent or agents. So somebody who wants to be on a podcast, and then the agent comes and sends me an email saying how amazing this person is, and would I be interested in having them on my podcast? And these people have never actually listened to the podcast, watched the podcast, have no idea about me. I'm just a number in their database, basically trying to get a bum on a seat. It feels really transactional on the podcast, and I actually never reply to those emails. And I think it was maybe a couple of weeks ago, Donna messaged me through Instagram, and it was such a genuine message. Donna had been watching or listening to the podcast and resonated with what we do here, and it was such a sincere and authentic reach out to say, would I be interested in having you on the podcast? And it was an absolute yes. It was an immediate yes for me. So I'm excited to see what unfolds today. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Giselle. I'm really thrilled to be here with you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So am I. Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about you? Just give us a bit of a picture of, who you are and what you're about. Just that big question like that.
We'll just start there. I'm a person. I'm a real life person with 2 kids, a 12-year-old and an 8-year-old, and got a fluffy pooch who I adore, who takes up so much space on our couch. And I am the mum walking on the beach with no makeup on, just a real life person, taking her kids to all the sporting activities after school, and happen to be doing some really special work at the same time.
Gorgeous. Sounds a lot like my life as well. Very real. I've got the dog on the bed.
Yes, very real. Like, my son's home from a day of school today because it's a report running day or what have you, and he's sitting on the couch. We just squeezed in a lunch at our beautiful little local before I came onto our call. And I guess really I've been quite intuitive and spiritual for quite some time, although I didn't grow up in a household that was like that. And I've really been following my intuition for about 8.5 years now. Like, really been following it, like actually getting the messages and actually doing the things. And so that's led me down a really wonderful path of, moving to the beach and creating a second business. And I don't know about you, Giselle, I'm pretty sure you might be the same, but my business has been its own personal development journey and has taken me through my paces along the way and connected with the most beautiful people. I'm always in deep gratitude for the gift of the work that I do and the space that it has me in. So that's who I am.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've got already so many questions backing up. But first of all,
Great.
just so that people get an idea of what you do. So what is it that you do?
Yes. I probably didn't even speak about that, really, did I?
Talked about who you are, which is wonderful.
Yeah, because, I used to relate to myself like I was my work.
Mm.
When I was in a corporate job before I moved into having my own business, my identity was so tied up in what I did in the
Yeah.
role that I had. And so when I remember distinctly going on maternity leave, thinking, who am I now? And then moving into my own business, my identity was so tied up in what I did for quite a long time. And then I needed to untangle that and get that, no, that's just what I do. It's like a job. It's how I show up in the world. It's how I make a contribution. But who I am is not what I do. So it's been a process of that. And so when people ask me who I am, I want to tell people, like, I'm Donna. I don't know. What do you want to know?
I'm a human.
I'm a real person. So from a work perspective, I do energy and emotional healing. A lot of that is trauma release work, although I don't tend to label it like that. And then I also have a business where I create custom made jewelry for people's souls. And that is a really special process and product as well. But basically, I think, Giselle, I'm here to help support switching on people's lights.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So many questions. The custom-made jewelry for
Yes.
people's souls, I did look at your website and it's beautiful jewelry.
Thank you.
Beautiful jewelry. How did that
Thank
happen?
you. It was before we'd moved to the beach. And why I say that is because I think moving to the beach, there was something significant about that. Sometimes I feel we're meant to be in certain places, and with the energy of that sacred land, then something can come through us. But I had this feeling like, have you had that, Giselle, where you can feel that something wants to come through you and you don't quite know what it is yet? I call it being like spiritually pregnant.
That's so
Like,
funny.
there's something about to be born. I just don't know if it's going to be human or otherwise. And I had that feeling. And finally, after we sold a house and moved to the beach, I was like, okay, I'm ready to listen to what this is. And I had a session with my mentor and healer at the time, and I connected with the soul of my business. And the first question she asked me was, what does your business want to sell, Donna? And before I could even think about it, the word products came through, and I could barely get that word out of my mouth because I was so shocked and taken aback. I thought with my healing work, I'd finally found my lot in life, and I steered clear from all the products, all the MLMs, like just absolutely steered cleared from everything that everyone presented me with regards to products. And then this idea came through. And so as it was like, one vision just dropped in after another, Giselle. One of them was I saw, okay, this is going to sound pretty out there, but we can go there, can't we?
Totally.
I was out in the stars and I saw someone's hand, and I saw a ring slide on that person's finger. I knew it was a colored gemstone ring. I saw the ring slide on their finger, and I saw energy ripple up their arm and into their chest, and then aura, their energy field, turned on. It was like this light switched on in them, and I could see this energy currency moving up through from their hand, from the ring. Then I saw all of these pieces. I thought it was rings. At the beginning of my business, I started creating rings. I saw all these rings being made in Melbourne, and then I saw them getting shipped out to all different parts all around the world. And as that happened, then I saw this energetic grid start to form between all of these pieces of jewelry. And that is now what I call, so my jewelry business is called the House of Orion. Now I call that the House of Orion crystalline grid. And so my aim, Giselle, is to create the world's largest crystal grid.
Wow.
No mean feat, just to throw it out there. I don't even know that I can measure it, but it's still going to be my goal. And with that grid, we're supporting the ascension of this planet, of all of the inhabitants on this planet. And so my customers come into calls with me every 6 months, and I've gone right to the big mission, and you're probably going to have to pull me back and talk a little bit more about what the actual jewelry is. But my mission is to have an individual impact where the jewelry activates your energy field, but then have a global impact where the energy work we do really supports that ascension process. For instance, in our last call, we downloaded the energy of peace into that grid, and particularly over the parts of the earth and we all know where those parts are, that really needed that. And so it's a really beautiful way to make a larger contribution in a unique way.
Amazing. And you were never a jeweler
Oh
beforehand?
gosh, no. And
No.
that's why it was such a shock because, okay, I can do energy, but I have no idea about gemstones. I have no idea about jewelry. I'm just like, I don't know, have a couple of pieces at home that either I've been in have inherited or gifted. I don't know anything about jewelry. How are we going to do this, Spirit? Like, why me?
Wow.
Are you sure
Wow.
you've got the right person? Is how it felt.
Wow.
And I just followed my intuition and I
Yeah.
put one foot in front of the other. And Spirit guided me to, I have the most amazing jeweler in the whole world. I think he's based in Melbourne. He has over 30 years of experience and is just like his craftsmanship is next level, amazing. So all of the jewelry is handmade and he teaches me every time I sit with him. It's like I walk out of there a bit bamboozled and oh my gosh, he's just told me so much information and it has been a steep learning curve and continues to be, and it's amazing.
When did that the House of Orion start?
3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Just 3 years ago. So yes, it was first of all trying to like getting into the wholesale jewelry industry is something else. It's like under lock and key. It is absolutely hidden. And so my first step into that was I was able to find a gemstone wholesaler and establish an account with them. And it was no mean feat to do that. And then I found this incredible wholesale jeweler as well. And of course, it's all been through intuition and referrals and kind of magic behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So I think one of my strengths along the way, Giselle, is knowing what I'm good at and knowing what I'm terrible at.
Yeah.
Like there is no way it was going to be me making the jewelry. That was
Yeah.
just never going to happen.
Yeah.
I have this, I don't know, knack of finding amazing people around me.
A message that's been with me for the past month that I've done a couple of podcast episodes to has been the message of raising the stakes.
Mm.
And I spoke about this on not the last, actually at the last two episodes. I was in a breathwork session up in the Currumbin hinterland, maybe 3 weekends ago, I think. And I heard this is the quantum field. I was in the quantum field. I traveled to the quantum field. That had never happened before.
Oh,
And
it hadn't?
no, I'd
Did
never.
you have fun there?
I had fun.
It's a pretty cool place to hang out, isn't it?
It was the most powerful breathwork session I've ever done. And I'll just say the name, Troy Methorst, who is in Tweed Heads, and his wife, Beck Methorst. Check them out because they do, I think, I'm not sure if it's every Friday, but they run breathwork sessions there and they're amazing. Anyhow, I traveled into
Sounds
the
like it.
field. And the quantum field said to me, cast your desires onto me because I'm hungry and open to experience myself.
Oh, shivers.
And then raise the stakes and I will show you dreams you never knew you had.
Wow.
And that's what I'm hearing here. It's you never knew you had this dream. That was never in the plan to go and have
That's
this.
how I know it didn't come from me.
No.
Because it completely took me by surprise. I was so flabbergasted and I had all the doubts. I don't know that I can do this. I really don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I love that.
when you're given that intuitive direction in that way, that it's something that's bigger than you and that it is for you as well, because you're right. Raising the stakes is a perfect way to describe that.
Yeah. And I love the words spiritual pregnancy. That's so cool. And tell me about your other work, energy and emotional healing. You said it's in the trauma space. Tell me about that.
So I've been doing energy healing work for over 25 years and I'm 44. So yeah, it's been
wow. So you started young.
Probably longer than that. I was about 16, 17 when I first learned Reiki.
Well, how did that happen?
I had a family friend who I was upset at one point in time, breaking up with a boyfriend, 16 years old. And she said, come over here, Donna, and just sit down. I'll put my hands on your shoulders and I'll give you some Reiki. I didn't even know what Reiki was. And when she put her hands on my shoulders, it just felt so calming. I calmed down immediately. I could feel that soothing, but just that loving energy and the warmth coming through her hands. It was the first time that I felt like I was at home in my body in this lifetime. And that was so incredibly special. I knew that I needed to find out more. And so her partner was my Reiki master, and she really became my spiritual mother over the years, my own beautiful mother, but not so spiritual. And yeah, they changed my life and welcomed me in with open arms, and basically created a very safe space for me to recognize how intuitive I was and to honor that. Yeah.
And the
So that was the very
space?
beginning. The trauma space it's funny I use that word when we spoke, because I don't usually, as I said, describe that, but I've gone through my own fair share of trauma, and I've figured out how to recover from that and how to heal myself. And I think that has really been the driver of my own personal development and healing journey, has been that I needed it. I've been through a lot, and I've always been an emotional person, always been super sensitive, grew up as that kid that was too much, too many emotions, all the things, and needed to figure out how to bring my emotions into a place where it didn't feel like my Achilles heel anymore. Just always felt like they just, like a volcano, just come out and erupt at the most inappropriate times. And that was really awful. Trying to present to the outside world that I was great and happy and everything was fine, and on the inside really not feeling like that at all. And so my own journey has taken me to find what I call like the most effective modalities, because I needed it. And so trauma healing for me is a space that is deeply personal and private and intimate. It affects us at our core and is very unique and different for each person. And so I think because I've walked through the flames myself, I can be with people in that space.
I'd love to know, I guess this question comes from the fact that trauma is held differently in our world. Trauma is held differently by different people, by different modalities and philosophies, etc. Love to know. It's an interesting question, actually, the way that I'm being called to ask you this question. What does your heart know about trauma?
My heart knows that it changes the path that we're on. It changes the trajectory, that it can feel like we're split apart in some ways. And actually, that's what happens when we experience shock or trauma. Our energy field splits apart, and our soul is, I'm out of here, eject, I'm going out. Yes. And so when people experience trauma, I can see it in their energy fields, because their energy splits, it shatters, and people's souls, parts of them disassociate. And so trauma healing really is about bringing people back together again. I call it like the Humpty Dumpty process, when Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall.
Yeah.
And it's about putting Humpty Dumpty back together again. It's actually about energetically, emotionally, all of the things that we need to do to resolve trauma, so it can come to, so our connection or how we feel about what happened to us can come into a place where we can get the benefit out of it, like the silver lining out of it, whatever that means, and release the charge that we have that's associated with it, so it's not continuing to affect us all the time.
So you believe that it can be healed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if we don't, it's really challenging, because we'll end up like repeating somehow, that it'll create patterns in us and in our lives that will repeat. And that's not a fun place to be, is it?
No,
we all know that.
No. What, from your experience, when it hasn't been healed and freed, yeah, I get it. It returns and until we finally get it and release it. How else do you think it manifests when it's not freed.
Have you seen, let's think about a parent who's experienced trauma and it's not been processed or healed properly. I like to describe that like having an octopus stuck over your face, and all you can see, no matter where you look, is the octopus. And
Yeah.
as a parent, you can't be fully present with your children. You can't give them everything that you need because some part of you is still preoccupied with the octopus, the unprocessed trauma. So it stops the flow of life force energy, it stops the flow of love, it stops the flow of support moving through you and into your children if you're a parent, or into anything that you're trying to create in your life. There's this feeling like you're getting held back and you can't quite figure out how to clear the road in front of you. Does that answer your question?
Does. And I've got another question that I never thought I was going, like I never planned on asking. And I feel like I asked you before, what does your heart know about trauma? My heart actually wants to ask this question.
Please.
Yeah, and it feels like I actually got a huge amount of energy in my heart right now, and it feels the answer is the answer that you're going to give is the answer that has been asked for, maybe not consciously asked for, but has been asked for by some of the people who watch or listen to this podcast.
Okay.
So the question is, because I know a lot of people, right? And I also deal with trauma in my coaching, and I too know that it can be freed, etc. And I totally agree with you that there's a silver lining. And what about for those people who are so close, they've not been able to fully, they've had moments of freedom for sure, right? They're not turning up the way that they did. They've got so much more awareness. They've had moments of freedom for sure. And yet it's like one of those tentacles is still, it just won't leave. The others are gone, but that last one just won't leave. I'd love to know what you feel is the final thing that will create that release, like for good.
I can only tell you from my own personal experience and from the hundreds of people that I've worked with, is that if there is something that's still sitting there that feels like it might be the last layer of the onion or that last tentacle, the thing in my heart to share is that it's not you. Like, it's not because you haven't done enough. It's not because you haven't tried enough. It's not because you're not a good enough student or a good enough XYZ, fill in the gaps. It's actually that the modalities that you've been using have got you so far, but you haven't got that last part. So there has to be something else out there, or there has to be a different way of addressing it that perhaps you haven't tried yet that will actually clear that. And I think when people are in this space, like we've played in for many years, decades, Giselle, that we make it about us. Like, because we haven't been able to shift that very last piece, we internalize it and think like somehow it gets added into the not good enough story. And it is not. It is absolutely not about you as a person or how much you can manifest or how well you can manifest or how much you can embody or all of that. It's just that you haven't found that last, like the right modality or the right way of dealing with that for you to get rid of it.
So what would you suggest? And I feel like we're making it up in the moment here. I feel like we are speaking to those people. As I said, so much is happening. This is like this last tentacle. And I love that your response, because I agree with you. I have observed that people will make it, like you said, I haven't done this well enough. I've got this wrong.
I'm still too sensitive. I'm still this, I'm still that. Why can't I get to the bottom of it?
So I wonder in this moment if the last piece is simply seeing that the reason why the tentacle has latched on is because they've made that mean that there's something wrong with them, that they haven't got it right.
I don't know. I I feel that's an easy go-to for us. I think it's an easy go-to to make it about ourselves, and then we get hooked into that story and then we're stuck there. So yes, in some ways it is that. But there might also just be like one other thing that you need to try. And I'm not just like, I found a modality that worked for me that actually got to the core of stuff and that released everything. And that's one of the main modalities that I use with my clients. It's not here to sprout that, but do you know, like
Oh, but please share.
I think sometimes what is happening is what's hidden in plain sight. And so one of the modalities that I found to be super duper effective is family constellation therapy.
Yeah.
It's the one thing that actually got to the core of what was going on for me. And I think that was because our self-esteem, how we experience ourselves, is so tied up with our family, whether you like it or not. And some people have tried to travel across the world and live somewhere else and be very far away from their families. But at the end of the day, we're born into a birth family and we have a biological need to belong, because otherwise we won't survive. And couple that with the greatest gift of all that we've ever been given is the gift of life by mum and dad. And so there's this underlying loyalty that we have, again, like it or not, to belong to our birth family. And so you looked like you were familiar with family constellation therapy when I said that. You got a smile on your face.
I know about it. I've never studied it in depth, but I know what you're talking about. Yes.
Okay.
I definitely
Yeah.
recognize what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes. And so that plays in the space of the energy field of the family system. Just like you and I have an energy field, we have an aura, so does the field of your family system. And it's called a morphic field. And that morphic field is a biological phenomenon. It's the same as what surrounds birds that fly in a V formation, have a morphic field around them, and it informs them of how to behave, how to fly in that V formation. The energies, the field around our family system is the same. It informs us how to behave, basically what you can do, what you can't do. And so the health of the individuals, of us, is very much determined by the health of the overall family system. So if there's been unprocessed trauma, by sitting in the field of the family system, it acts like a big boulder, like big energy, like blocks for energy to be flowing through. And there's meant to be a lot of love and a lot of life force energy and a lot of support moving through the field of your family system into you. You're meant to feel like you've got the wind beneath your wings and that you've got everything that you need, that you're cared for in the way that you've always yearned to be cared for. You're meant to be feeling loved and supported and strong and calm and all the beautiful things. You're meant to be getting so much from our family systems. And when there is that octopus over our faces, or perhaps over our parents' faces, or is it basically removes or puts a kink in the hose of that flow of love and life force energy. But when we can heal that trauma, whether it's yours or whether it's someone else's, it changes everything. It changes everything about how you feel in your body. It changes what you can do with your life. It's interestingly, Giselle, like I was saying at the beginning, how much you are receiving love or unconditional or conditional love from your parents as a child really informs us about how lovable we are. That affects our self-esteem in a very direct way, because as children, we know children always internalize things. They always make them about themselves. And so when I have, well, myself is a good example, but also lots of my clients come to me and they have really low self-esteem and they're like, I just want to tap into my intuition. I just want to feel really confident in myself again. And when we play in that space of doing that family healing, it starts to increase your self-esteem as a natural, beneficial flow-on effect just by getting the love that you've always yearned for. Does that make sense?
Wonderful. Yeah, wonderful way of describing all of that. Thank you. So I'm really holding space actually in this episode, not only for spiritual pregnancies, because I love who knows what might be birthed from this conversation, whether it's a dream that they never knew they had, like you with the House of Orion, or whether it's that final tentacle that gets released simply by being in the energy of this conversation. Maybe there's
That
something
would be amazing.
like maybe there's something that clicks over
Yep.
just by being
Yep.
in our energy today. I would really love that. Yeah, I think that
Me
would be
too.
amazing. Yeah.
Me too.
What
Yeah.
do you feel? This is a big question. The shifts in perception that we have that change our lives, those types, those massive shifts in perception. Wow.
Yeah.
And then it changes the course of our lives. When you look at your life, what do you feel has been the biggest one, or the one that you most appreciate, like the one that you're like, wow, have so much wonderful?
The thing that's coming up really strongly is the shift from I can't do it to I can do it. I intuitively, that's what's coming up for me.
It really resonates.
Yeah. And that means that what's behind that is a level of self-esteem and confidence that I haven't always had, belief in myself, feeling very supported, but also having my eyes wide open and curious with awe and wonder about the world and about life, because
Mm,
we're always growing and
mm.
there's always more adventures to be had. I wonder where my intuition is going to take me next.
Yeah.
What challenging, uncomfortable, and magical places are you going to take me to now? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that perception shift, or that inner belief of I can't do it, I can do it.
So before we actually started recording this, I said to you the way that I hold these interviews is that we just in presence with each other. We go where the conversation wants to go. Just imagine what you do when you're in sessions with your clients, and the way that I am in sessions with my clients. We never know what's going to happen. And
Yeah.
I said to you, sometimes there's a moment in the conversation where I know actually now what the episode is in, what the theme of the episode is, and we've just nailed it.
Wonderful.
I can't do it to I can do it. That's the
It
one.
is.
And it
It is.
encompasses the spiritual pregnancy. It encompasses the conversation around trauma,
Mm,
encompasses the conversation around being on this magic carpet ride and following the intuitive pull, and we don't know where it's going to take us.
yeah. And that the deep inner personal process that we go through from I can't to I can.
Yeah,
It's wonderful, isn't it?
it is wonderful. And I just want to comment actually on you, give you a compliment. In, I guess, in our world, there can be a lot of, when it comes to marketing, there can be a lot of smokes and mirrors and ways that in terms of what people are taught, ways that we need to be and things that we need to do. And I guess what I'm saying is a lot of masks that get put on. And you're just so genuine. You're just so beautiful. Pure is the feeling that I get when I'm with you. So pure.
Thank you so much, Giselle. I'm receiving that fully in my
Yeah.
heart.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. You're a beautiful example of someone who's in the world. And as I said, you messaged me and said, I listened to your podcast and I love it. And would you consider if I were a guest on your show? And as I said, people have agents to go and do that. And I didn't even know who they are. And I've got no connection with them. And therefore, I have no desire to have them on the show. And yet you turned up in the way that you did. And yeah, it's just beautiful, pure energy.
Thank you so much. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. And you were sharing with me before we started recording about authenticity being so key for you. And that's really why I reached out, because I could feel that in your energy, and I could feel that as you were speaking and listening to your show and seeing you on social media as well. And I also appreciate it so much because probably like other entrepreneurs, I've studied under particular mentors and have learned different ways of marketing and strategy. And I've had to unlearn so much of that and detach myself from that to come back to, I don't want to do business if it means doing icky things that feel icky or not being myself. And I've realized over time that the beauty is in how unique each of us are, and I can be real, I can be myself. And that has been a process, like a very conscious process, to take all of the masks off, if you like, and to just be me.
Yeah.
So thank you for acknowledging it, because that's been like a lot of deep dive inner work around that.
Yeah, I know. I know. I did all the unlearning as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
That old chestnut. Yep.
Yeah.
Wanting to give up my business, I don't know how many times, because I don't want to be in the industry anymore, and all of those things too. It's not for the faint-hearted.
So I have a running joke with some of my really close clients and friends who are friends. I have a running joke that when we have those, or I have those moments of, oh my God, it's so hard, I say, I want to become a real estate agent. And so that's when they have their moments, they're like, oh, I want to become a real estate agent.
Yep. We've all been there.
Maybe in another life. Definitely not for the faint-hearted. That's for sure. That's for sure. Yay, go us. Go us.
Go us, following our hearts and our intuition. Oh my goodness.
So it's been wonderful to be with you. Thank you for being here with us and sharing you and all the...
Thank you so much for having me, Giselle. It's been an honor to sit with you in this space, in this conversation, in this true heartfelt connection.
Yay. Yeah, it has been. I agree. So I'm going to put all your details in the show notes.
Okay.
Of how people can get in contact with you for either your healing work or for the House of Orion. I know that you've kindly shared a link to a meditation. I'll have all of that in the show notes. Is there anything that you would like to say as we complete? Anything that you feel like we've missed?
The one thing that I want to say to the people listening is do whatever it takes to get from the I can't to the I can. Like, just pull out all the stops and do whatever it takes to get yourself there, because your life will change infinitely for the better.
Yeah.
And back yourself, because you absolutely can do that. Yeah.
Thank you. Wonderful way to end. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey guys, if you love this podcast, I have 2 requests. Number 1, sign up to the newsletter, which you can find in the show notes. Sharing is one of my superpowers, and there is only so much that I can share through the medium of podcasting. And I have very big plans this year to be radically generous to you. So sign up to that newsletter, where you'll be able to receive a whole lot more that I trust will be super valuable to you. And number 2, I'm a massive referrer of the people I love to the people I love. Please share this episode or podcast with the people you love, and let's create some more breathtaking ripples of impact.